All right, how's it going, everyone? Today we are going to do kind of a book review series almost. This is an interesting one. This is Nightshades by one of my favorite authors so far. I believe their name is pronounced Jan Fries, but it might be Jan Fries. Some people say Jan Fries. So, the interesting thing about this book is it has, like 65 pages of actual text, and then it gets into sort of like, it's got 56, 57 pages. Then it gets into sort of like a coloring book of the night side. Pretty cool, because on one page is the image that you can scry or project into or use magically for spell work, divination, things like that. You can color it like a coloring book, but then there's this empty page on every single one that allows for you to either scry or make your own interpretation. We're seeing the image from the other side on that one. All the other pages are blank. So that could be for watercolor purposes, but I love the idea. Such a cool idea. So we are going to read through some of the text. That's about 60 pages. So probably break it into like 5 12-page videos or 4 15-page videos, something like that. Or we might do 2 30-page. It depends on the memory on my camera. So I've got a lot of stuff on there. So we will begin. I think we'll probably read the first 14 pages. It begins with this image here that says, "I am the past, I am the future. Birth I am, love and death. I am the Ancient One." Okay. Then on the other side of that, it says, "And night as black as raven's wings descended from the blasted tree, with gleaming eyes and ruby lips, her gift of kiss, her gift the kiss of infamy." So this is Nightshades, a tourist guide to the night side by Jan Fries, with introduction by Mog Morgan from, looks like Mandrake Publisher. Yep, published by Mandrake of Oxford. Okay. The copyright, text and illustrations, introduction, look like they're all copyrighted by Mandrake. All rights are reserved to them. No part of this work is owned by me. All I'm doing is reviewing this for fair use and education purposes. All right, let's start with the introduction by Mog Morgan, M-O-G-G. For a few months back in the early part of 2008, I worked with a small group of local Oxford occultists, using some themes drawn from the Shadow Tarot. I'm told this might be a rather foolhardy approach to the tradition, but those who know me wouldn't be too surprised. The work was done as a part of a training group for the Oxford Golden Dawn Occult Society, which is a small occult sodality founded in the 1980s as an homage to the original, but now sadly defunct, Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. This small group has since been morphed into the Kemetic Order of the Golden Dawn, but that's another story. From my first involvement with the Golden Dawn magic of the 1980s, I felt called to the ancient Egyptian god Seth, or Set. This was a natural enough progression from my initiation into Kenneth Grant's Typhonian recension of the Ordo Templi Orientis, recently rebranded as the Typhonian Order. Of the many important books written by the late Kenneth Grant, Night Side of Eden is one of the most intriguing. It is, in effect, an extended commentary on Aleister Crowley's Liber 231, one of the most enigmatic of his many publications. This short Liber is published by the Holy Books of Thelema, 1988. Crowley, Aleister, edited by Hymenaeus Alpha, Grady McMurtry, Weiser, New York. Hymenaeus Alpha. The text is prefaced by an enigmatic diagram showing two sets of signs, the left hand corresponding to the schema of the 22 paths on the Golden Dawn Tree of Life, period. Those on the right, a duplicate set and usually taken to correspond to Nightside or Cliphotic aspect of the Tree of Life. It is this latter array that has received the most attention and is the subject of Kenneth Grant's Nightside of Eden. It is the subject of Kenneth Grant's extended Nightside of Eden commentary. Then the accompanying text is a series of 22 short epigrams. For example, 0, A, the heart of IAO, dwelleth in ecstasy in the secret place of the thunders, between Asar, Osiris, and Asi, Isis. Ecstasy of the secret place of thunders. Between Asar, Osiris, and Asi, Isis, he abideth in joy. The right-hand array has nothing as obvious, merely a list of the genii of the 22 scales of the serpent and of the Qliphoth. The Qliphoth, or Qliphote, is a Hebrew word, or Qliphote, is a Hebrew word meaning revenant, or shell, can also mean husk, as well as many other things, and is therefore taken to mean daemon, D-A-E-M-O-N. Magicians habitually view the second sequence as a daemonic version of the Golden Dawn Tree of Life. One of the reasons I'm covering so many of these books about one subject is because so much of the subject is subjective. So we're drinking from several cups to try to figure out what we want to distill in our own barrel. Okay, the Liber 231 apparently started life as a text within the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, as an exercise to develop astral and trance abilities, or perhaps in other, more elaborate rites. The Nightside aspect requires some care and alertness in case of accident. The correct attitude is said to be one of self, or egoless witness. Or maybe it's just that one needs the use of an all-embracing rather than limited kind of identity and self-identification. The plan of our little magical study group was to investigate these symbols at one stage removed. With this in mind, we used the following protocol. Before each session, everyone drew their own version of the sigil in the correct or appropriate colors. Previous explorers of this material usually end up with a full set of drawings of the actual entities that are said to lurk in the tunnels rather than paths of the Nightside tree. For all the above reasons, these are sometimes called the tunnels of Seth. Tunnels are one of the words that evoke all sorts of subterranean feelings, usually seen in contradistinction to the pathways of the Dayside tree. Perhaps this distinction is a trick of language. The origins of the Tree of Life schema, with its spheres and paths, is, in my opinion, to be found in ancient Egyptian books of the afterlife, all of which are full of caves and tunnels. Shamanic practice as well. I could digress into a shamanic vision about tunnels and gate, but I don't think I will at this time. The images by Jan Fries published in this book also inspired us. We made copies, and in the week before the meeting, colored them in. Okay, not the artistic equivalent of rocket science, but for those of us who lack Jan's visionary skill, it was a great help. A similar technique was used in Paul Foster Case's Builders of the Adytum, for which one can still purchase a monochrome version of the tarot. Coloring a sketch really makes you focus hard on the image, makes you see details you'd perhaps skipped over. Working with color also raises some surprising problems and issues. It also makes it very unconscious, the things that you're not consciously seeing, so you just project all of it almost as far back as you can, if not further. The image really does enter your subconscious and can manifest in one's dreams. And once you master lucid dreaming, or once you get better at it, could become one of your main magical practices. I've described lucid dreaming as opposed to ritual and ceremony. Like when you're doing rituals and ceremonies here, like it's like you're passing something off to an assembly line. But when you're lucid dreaming and projecting, you're giving the schemata, the blueprint, straight to the engineer, so to speak. So these things interacting with you in your dreams is no small thing. For this reason, we took some care to note any interesting dreams and bring these to mind during the formal meditation sessions. Okay, I'm going to show the sigils, glyphs, seals, whatever, of the spirits and the intelligences, or the jinn, whatever you want to call them, and the intelligences. So if you don't want to see them, fast forward in the video to like 12 minutes and 30 seconds. All right, here we go. So this is the light side, you might say. And then the night side are these. You can take a screenshot, you can rewind it, do whatever, and we will wait a few seconds for those who did not wish to see those. Okay, welcome back, those of you who did not wish to see those. For the session, we used a simple opening rite based on the famous Golden Dawn and comedically inspired lesser ritual of the pentagram. Because this was midway between a meditation and a seance, we did this in a more static version, part outer and part visualized. After we'd settled down in a circle, hands linked but comfortable, the images we'd colored during the week were displayed and looked at before we started, and the sigil was stationed in the center or the circle of this table. When all these preparations were complete, we took turns to speak, verbalizing in what I call ordinary language trance, as suggested in the works of the Golden Dawn adept William Butler Yeats. Everyone had a go at describing the card and entering the tunnel, etc., slowly speaking quietly, but not so much that the others could not hear. We spoke whatever came to mind, what one saw, felt, etc. Whoever was leading the session might quietly prompt the others to speak by asking leading questions in a similar way to that described in Crowley's The Vision and the Voice. This continued until everyone had spoken, if only for a few moments. Okay. When the circle was complete, we sat for some time longer in private meditation. By pre-arranged convention, when anyone, had had enough, they could draw the session to a close by chanting a mantra, something prearranged. For example, the gentle chanting of Awen. Interesting. A-W-E-N. When everyone was back, we'd formally close the circle by repeating part of whole of LRP. Part or whole of LRP. So there are some typos in this, but that's okay. So another book, Sideways, however you want to pronounce it. It is a pretty good work by this same author, and you might get to know Alwyn a little bit better through that work. The final debrief was to relax and talk about our visions, if we had any, and perhaps even read a passage from Kenneth Grant's Nightshades of Eden. It was noteworthy how often this simple technique provoked insights that were confirmed by the readings from KG. So we have to be careful because people will do things like read passages beforehand and either forget and project from that unknowingly, unintentionally, or people will just deceive so that, well, there's several reasons one might do that. But yeah, we have to be careful. We have to be skeptical. So yeah, so it was confirmed when read readings from Kenneth Grant. We were not so good at making notes of the proceedings. Oh, the chaos current. Quote unquote. Several times we tried leaving a dictaphone running, but each time the batteries either failed or nothing was recorded. So perhaps this was comparable to W.B. Yeats' first such experiments. Were the results not worth recording? On reflection, I'd say the techniques probably need some work. It's maybe suitable as a taster to this work rather than the whole thing. In the end, the group broke up before we got very far into the sequence, and the members moved on to more comedically based trance work. Such is the nature of this sometimes. Either it doesn't go anywhere, or it's too much. Oftentimes. More times than not, they don't get anywhere. I'm just going to be real. This is not for everyone, and it's not a quick process for most people. So there are often better pursuits of their time. I just very much happen to be in love with the underworld tradition and the so-called chaos current and its relationship to what I perceive to be the unconscious aspect of existence. So, interesting, the spirits that communed with us pointed us in the direction of the first sequence of sigils, those for the day side. You might think that was rather kind of them. Perhaps we weren't quite up to the night side. I have a feeling these dayside images are overlooked because they already have a clear manifestation in the great many published tarot decks. Even so, they seem to be an attempt to distill the essence of the cards to its seed or sigil. And one way or another, they are an intriguing, more essential version of the tarot and its genie. The physical sigil of the Aleph, when drawn in the appropriate colors and encircled by the corresponding epigram, was for me a more evocative image, propelling me into the realm of the tarot in a pleasingly efficient manner. I recommend one try it for oneself. This book by Jan Fries is an account of his own more focused exploration of the night side. The images we used for the coloring began circa page 148. The monochrome images are reproduced here at full size, enabling one to use them for similar experiments. But first, here's Jan to explain their genesis. Mog Morgan, Oxford, 2012. Okay, we still have a little bit of time, so I'm going to read 2 more pages. Seems fair. Okay, now this is Jan or Jan speaking now. A tourist guide to the night side. Any useful magical system is based on a more or less chaotic process of initiation. A good system contains a whole series of initiations designed to reveal and manifest as much as possible of the original self-nature. So far, so good. In one package with the original self-nature appears the true will, which may be considered as the union of the personal true will and the true will of the all self. Okay? True? Wrong? Please don't agree so fast. We have arrived at our first scenic site, or rather, lie. Never mind. Let's call it a metaphor. It sounds a little classier. Original self-nature, a concept that carries connotations to Taoist and Thelemic lore, sounds impressively meaningful. Tough luck, it ain't. Tough luck that it ain't. A self-nature, whatever that may be, original or not, is a vague concept, or an endangered species at its best. But when I ask about yours, personally, we go dawdling to happy hallucination land. We talk words, not real life, and this makes all the difference. What happens to be your original self-nature, if any, is something none of us is equipped to know. We can know knowledge, or assume we do, but we cannot know its source. Your friends won't, and you, sorry about this, involved. Your friends won't, and you, sorry about this, involved, stuck, enchanted, bedazzled, and tied up in a phantasmagoria of concepts, beliefs, assumptions, hopes, instincts, and selective memories, won't know either. Let's go for the next metaphor. All better spiritual, mystical, or magical systems include a process that might be termed the development of a new personality. It means, somewhat simplified, that the you consider yourself to be transforms into the sort of person who handles enlightenment and magic with competence and, hopefully, wisdom, care, and consideration. Another fancy idea. Just what happens to be wise, competent, and considerate? We are juggling words. Each of them means some things for me and some things for you. And if we are lucky, we happen to agree about a few. Sure, you have your answers. Let's hope that you'll come upon better ones as you go along. Losing your head for good. This is the last section. In the North Indian tantric systems, one of the most popular deities is Chinnamasta, 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 maybe, the Lady of Wisdom. One fine day, Shiva and Chinnamasta, is it Chinnamasta? One day, Shiva and Chinnamasta were happily in bed together and had much fun with each other. Afterwards, Chinna got up to have a bath down in the river. Her girlfriends, Yogini and Dakini, accompanied her. So were they Yogini and Dakini, or was that their names? Anyway, the three splashed around in the water and scared the gulls, egrets, and hamsa birds, who flew squawking and wobbling to the other shore. Then Yogini said, "I'm so hungry." Dakini agreed. "Haven't we got something to eat?" When Chinna returned to Shiva, the lord of ascetics was surprised. "Why are you so pale all of a sudden?" he inquired. Chinnamasta smiled happily. "The two were hungry, and so was I. I cut off my head. 3 fountains of blood spurted from my neck, and we drank from them." So much for wisdom. It's nourishing and colorful, and tastes better when you take off your head before feeding. Every head reaches a point where it becomes a burden. Every system of initiation reaches a point where it becomes a superfluous absurdity. Every personality, no matter how beautiful, clever, and wise, eventually becomes an obstacle. The identity that can be named is bound and limited, such as the Tao. And what exactly constitutes wisdom is easy to know once you've gone beyond your own point of view. Okay, that is a nice start. I think there's some stuff in there that, like a lot of typical beginners or even intermediate people need to hear. We need to look at this from more than a Kabbalistic standpoint. Yes, I know, this is Qliphoth Quest, or Qliphoth Quest. And the Qliphoth are a Judeo-Christian concept, except they're not. This tradition has been handed down and handed down and handed down. So I thought we'd try a little bit of balancing our rants with a little bit of regurgitation. That way, at least the information and the ideas are out there. So thanks for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them below. Otherwise, have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week, and thanks for stopping by. Take care.